went into my Outlook and put me over, but so I don't, orange I see. So sorry about that.
Chase is manning the live stream. Kate and Dawn are here.
All right. Because Catherine Lowe, she's not with us anymore.
Here, I'll change my name. That'll help.
No, that's okay. How do you pronounce your last name?
Navahar.
Oh, that's not even hard. Okay. I need to get out my my phonics lessons, Fun with Phonics, or whatever that new program is they're doing. It's really okay.
So everyone else is here.
I would say let's just go ahead and get started since it is 5:03. Is that okay? Is that good with everybody? They can just join.
Just want to tell Chase to go ahead and start the live stream.
Oh, sorry. So, thank you all for continuing to be part of our group. I think we had a really good conversation last time. We started into the website review, and I'll just say it right now, even though Kate's, she might be listening, but Kate started us off with a bang. But I got to thinking, and I really wanted to take us back like one more step, if we could. And if you look at our agenda, committee goals and review of the new member application, to try and get those kind of knocked out first today, and then get back to our review of the website, because I'm feeling like if we have our good committee goals down, then we can also look at our website review through a new lens. So Anne or Caress, could you share that the screen with us that has the committee goals that are listed on the website? I know you guys have probably already seen these, a bunch of times, but bear with me as I get up to speed with what you guys have all been doing. Okay, so our goals, there are 4 of them, to review and revise, if needed, recently established district-wide parent communications and policies, which revise if needed. We've got so many policies and procedures coming out, so I think, we're going to be busy, just making sure we're up to date. Create and implement accountability measures to assure policies and processes are followed at the school level. And I'm not quite sure where you guys were going with that one, so a little bit of feedback. Collaboratively discuss and develop innovative ways to reach out to parents and to gather feedback, and to create a parent communications calendar of events to generate interest and participation. So does anybody have anything that they want to just kind of jump right in on with their thoughts on these goals, some things that we're missing, some things that you think that we might need more clarity on, other than what I just kind of, outlined briefly? Oh, Stephanie, yeah, go ahead.
I can give some background.
Okay,
so
please.
I will say that the group predominantly has been working on the third and fourth bullet, I think, for the past
Okay.
year and a half. The
Okay.
first bullet, when this committee was first given to me, the first bullet, they had revised the district-wide parent communications policies and processes a few years prior. And
Okay.
so so that was the purpose of that item. This was and there was a lot of changes to the communications department
Okay.
since then. So I think that first bullet really didn't get any attention.
Okay.
The second bullet was part of, I think, the conversations. It rolled into some of the third and fourth bullets because some of the things we were learning through the roundtables helped to inform some of those school level discussions. But I don't know if I would say that we actively really were holding people accountable to find out if things were happening at the school level.
You mean based on what was coming out in policies and procedures and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did not
Okay.
inform policy as a committee. We more or less were collecting information to understand the gaps and the need over the past 18 months, I would say.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts about the? I'm just interested in trying to figure two things for our goals. If we're going to go out and recruit new people, to be on our team, then we really kind of have to. I think that we really should have some more clear-cut things in what we're doing. Unless we think that we're kind of just like a think tank, information sharing. But do any of you folks on there that and speak to me from your parent voice, not necessarily from your school system voice, because as we kind of figured out last time, that school system people get information two different ways, through as a parent and through their school system connections. So is anybody, I don't have kids in school anymore, so I don't get any of the, I don't get the information that you guys get as a parent, or information that you think you need to get. So as we're looking at these goals, for those of you who are from your parent voice, somebody weigh in and tell me what you think.
Stephanie, this is Cynthia.
Yes.
Hi. I know for me, with my little ones in one school, my older one in another school, and excluding the third school that I work in, I've noticed that, I can see the clear distinction. I get one email district-wide, straight from the horse's mouth, and then in turn, the principal or whomever has to then put it out to the community of the school, and it's not exactly what you just read. And it's like someone had a different interpretation. So it's almost like, I get, the way that the email works in our school, but it's like, maybe that message, instead of being translated by somebody to look like it comes from the principal, maybe it should just be like a forwarded email, stating that this is a district message. So that way, every single parent across every single school receives the exact same email exactly as it was sent. Because then, then the message is clear. This is what it is. It's not left for someone else to interpret and then to send out what they think is relevant.
Gotcha. And so what I'm kind of hearing there too is the, or maybe I'm not hearing it. I am superimposing onto you what you just said. What I think I would like to have heard was that perhaps it depends on the message, maybe, like there are some things that should be district-wide exactly the same, but some things that may need to have an interpretation at the school level because the school may implement what was being said differently because of the demographics, the population. Do you feel like that's happening or that might be necessary?
I'm grateful that my Spanish is decent in that, I can kind of pick apart. However, I do have an instance where I read it in Spanish and I'm like, oh, that wasn't the word they meant, because that really means something else. So, even though it was perfect school Spanish, it wouldn't be perfect conversational Spanish. So there's things like that that happen, but those instances I've legit maybe seen it once or twice. So I know that, that's not really, Google Translate does amazing things, but doesn't always convey the correct inflections and intentions the way we want them to. It's just, I guess, a think tank. It just does what you tell it to do and nothing more.
Well,
but
if I can jump in just real quick,
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about our process there. We actually don't use Google Translate for Connect Fives, which are the emails, texts, and calls that you get. For all of those, we use our best internal person translating, the best resources we have. That's not to say we can't do better, of course, but it's a person doing that translation who is very aware of those nuances. We don't even outsource that because of that very reason you're saying, that those nuances can make such a difference. So
Yeah.
it may be that we need to look a little deeper into how we translate that and what that process is and how it's reviewed before it goes out.
And with that,
yes, absolutely.
are you talking about communication from the school level or the district level? Because of that communication, like Ann said, it comes from a actual bilingual person in the district who translate, but that may not always be the case at the school level. So if that's something we can look into about how we can improve translation capabilities at the school level, that could be something that you're seeing that for that reason.
Yeah, because one school may have a bigger population of, Spanish speaking families, and they only need to translate this one internal letter, even if it's something as innocuous as like picture day. And I get that trying to run something through, the translator is often faster than being able to call on somebody from the district. So maybe there can be something that can be, addressed with something like that.
Okay, so Cynthia and others, if any of you see those kinds of things that are coming out, if you could just let Ann's office, either Ann or Caress, know that like as soon as it happens, because then maybe they can kind of pinpoint where there's a breakdown or learn from the verbiage, that is being used, so that might be helpful to us too. But that's a good call on that.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
it possible, Bernice, with NHCPA, is it possible to poll the schools to find out what they're using to translate? Because some may be using Google Translate because that's all they have, and that might not be the best way to do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And we're just about to send a survey to the schools. So we'll include that. That's a great idea.
Okay, thanks, Bernice.
Stephanie, I have a couple
Yeah.
thoughts on the goals. This is
Okay,
Al.
yeah, please.
Just a editing thing. The fourth goal, I think I would assume that we wanted to say create family communication calendar instead of parent communication.
Okay, yep.
Because we had changed the name from the parent communication committee to the family communication committee.
Okay.
And an example of something for bullet number 2, we talked at length last year about when these calls come from the schools that we'd like the principals to click the email button so that that families get an email that is the same message as what they sent in the Connect or whatever it's called, Connect 5, Alert Now, whatever it's called. And we talked about that, and this was before, I think it was before all the big switchovers and stuff. And that was supposed to be like, okay, we're going to get everybody to make sure that their Connect 5 calls are also, everybody's clicking the email button, and that's not happening. And so, so that's part of that accountability measure to assure, because it's been a year.
Can we make that a default option? Like almost like a negative opt out? Like they have to click it if they don't want the email to go.
Good idea.
Yeah, so Kate, you're back with us. We're having a little bit of a discussion about at the school level messages that go out. Allison, would you kind of repeat that just to make sure that Kate heard it correctly?
Yes. On the second bullet, we had talked about the Connect 5 calls and asking that the principals or whoever's sending them out click the email button for all of them so that everybody got the same message in an email. And so the question was, can you make it a default that that the email automatically goes and somebody has to unclick it if they don't want it to?
So when you do the Connect 5 call, you enter your script to record your audio, and then you have to copy and paste that under the email tab. But so it's not just a button, you have to move the text, and then often you need to modify that text because, for example, the one that I sent, I'm doing a town hall tonight, and the one I sent yesterday, the audio says, that the links will be included in the email that accompanies this call. So then you move the text over and you change that text to include the links for the call. And so the way that you speak conversational, well, at least me, I don't know if that's everybody else, but the way that you speak on a voice call and the way that you would write a formal, email to parents is, but it's all within the same setting, but it wouldn't be in terms of Connect 5 that it would automatically go as an email, because you have to include a subject and you have to put the text in that box.
And some of the calls that I get are automated, like spoken by a computer. And so I guess that's where somebody's typed in the message that they want and then the computer's reading it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are awful.
They're awful.
Honestly.
And you really spend
really
most of your time trying to figure out what is this computer saying versus understanding what it's saying. Like fifth grade, for example, the computer reads it as 5th. So if you're going through and you're saying, okay, I want my the seventh graders will be doing this. It's the 7th graders will be doing da da da, and it just is so not able to. And then when there's no email to accompany that, you can't go back and try to figure out what it is.
So I guess what I'm interpreting Allison to say, Kate, is that is there a problem with having both of them come out? To make that kind of it's a little extra work, but to make it like a default that is just what happens instead of principal going, all right, I don't think I need that, or I don't have time right now, I'll come back, or is that something that would be doable?
Well, I think the way to make it doable is for Anne's office, to communicate with senior staff and for it to be made clear. Because I do think Allison is right. I think at the time that decision was made, well, then all the things happened. There was turnover and we closed school. And so I think the next thing just didn't occur. But I think that if it was made clear from the district level, from the communications office or senior staff, that was an expectation that both were included, then I think that's how you make that happen. I don't think it's a matter of having, unless Anne or Caress knows differently, I don't think you can just make a default setting for all schools in Connect 5 that I would be aware of.
No, I don't think so. But let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. Are we saying that when a district-wide message goes out, then the schools send it as an email? Is that what we're saying?
Well,
I think
in the district-wide emails, the district-wide calls, I get an email that says the same thing as what the district one said. But as a parent, when I'm receiving from a school, I'm not getting the emails. And then some of the calls are spoken by a computer, and I'm assuming that the computer is trying to read what someone typed in, and the computer doesn't. It's the same thing with the nuances of the computer reading the language doesn't come across easily. So there's no email to follow up to even know really what the message was. So that was just an example of the bullet number 2, where we had been working on, the accountability kind of part.
Okay.
So we need to share those protocols for how to best use. I'm sorry, Bernice. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I think we were both. And so this is part of what we've talked about, having some standardization amongst the schools. Yeah. Because both my elementary and middle
Uh-oh, you're cutting out.
While Bernice is getting connected, Anne, I wanted to ask you a question. I love that I'm now getting the text messages from the district. Is that service now available for all schools? We can use it as well?
It is. And so what I'm thinking is we need this protocol to go to all the schools that instructs all of the schools. And this is just the beginning of the, but no automated calls. I would suggest we say email and text. The receiver makes that designation. Do they want text as their primary or email? So email or text is the primary, call is for emergencies. And some of these other things for consistency, we can definitely issue that. I think that got lost, as you said, I think it got lost in the translation between COVID and.
I'm sorry, when I pull up at the house, the network switches. So I was just saying for, the standardization, like I'm getting it from my schools, but apparently some parents aren't getting it.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Okay.
And what about that?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I know that, some parents have pushed the little button to opt out of calls, and I guess that opts them out forever. Or does it reset itself at the beginning of every school year? Because I have a friend of mine who opted out from one school because she's split again. She has one child in elementary and one in middle, and she was getting 2 messages. So when she got a message that applied to the elementary, she simply opted out thinking, okay, I won't get it from this school anymore. No, it opted her out of all the messages from the district, and she's still not connected back. And I don't even know what to tell her with how to get back.
You can opt back in, and information about how to do that is on the website and is sent from Student Sports Services at the beginning of the year. But to your point, we probably need to publicize it more frequently than that, because there are people who get in that situation during the year and then don't know how to reset.
So then does it reset? Sorry.
School. I'm sorry, they can also contact the data manager at the school and they would be able to opt them back in.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Caress, maybe you can include that we're just starting up an e-newsletter that's going to be going to families, and maybe that can be included. The links for people to adjust their opt-in settings.
Yes, we'll add that.
Okay, so that was an important thing. Yay, we got something accomplished today. So cool. All right. So do you think that our wording there? Oh, and let me go back to catch Kate up on one more thing, and then I'll go to my question. So Kate, one of the things that was also brought up while you were gone was that Cynthia said that as a school system person, she will get district emails, and then from for all employees. And then when it comes down to getting the emails from the school, from her principals, sometimes they're a little different, kind of like with a principal, spin or interpretation, or maybe even just a trying to fine tune it to fit their own demographics. Is that something that you guys have been given any direction on about, when to just forward straight and when to change it up some?
So I think it depends on, so there are times that it is explicit that this is the communication that you will share. So probably the most basic example of that would be COVID notifications. So, when the COVID notification goes out, that is standard. And then
but you know what? That's not standard, just FYI. Principals are doing, are some of their words are different. That's why I was just asking.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah. I think, I think there are times that it does need to be very standardized. And then I do think there are times that things are different for school. So I'll give another example. The survey for Plan A, so for student response. So that was one where and I guess I'm telling on myself, but ours was a little different because we had just collected that information. We have a lot of data to support that our families do not generally respond to surveys. We have about a 20-25% return rate on surveys. So we make phone calls. And so we had just done it. And so we, try to use the tools that parents are most responsive to. And so we didn't send out that specific survey. Now, we used the district language in terms of communicating about Plan A, but in terms of getting that information back from families, we went a little bit rogue and we've got all of our responses. So it worked. So, so I think knowing your school population and how to get them information and, I think as a principal, I think that it can be good based on your school community to shift that. But I do think it's important when the district makes it clear that this is going to be the language of how we're going to communicate about this thing, that is also followed as well. So
yeah, and I would agree. That was something that, I think we're getting better at this in the district office, that to recognize that we can provide a template, but we don't necessarily need to, it doesn't need to be as rigid as every school following exactly the same, as Kate just said, use different channels that work for your families, use different language, you can add, subtract, but the basic messaging is there. And I think that seemed to work with the Plan A communication better than we have accomplished in the past.
So does that, which goal does that sort of fit under, standardizing that? Because what I hear a lot of concern and complaints about is that, well, this school said this and this school said that. And sometimes they're pretty different. Even with that survey that went out, principals didn't all use the same. So, how do we get to that? Short of saying you have to submit because we don't want, obviously, you to have to submit all your stuff, back to central office for review. But how do we get to that so that some things are communicated like the same and some things are, you have liberty on? Or is that even our issue at this, it is sort of our issue at this for this committee, but at what point are we way too down in it?
So one thing, Anne, if you don't mind me sharing, that I thought we did really well with Plan A is it was very obvious as a principal that the district had their messaging ready before they went into that board meeting. So for example, and I think Anne's right that we have gotten better at it because, if you go the whole way back to a year ago, sometimes it was taking, 36 hours or more, 48 hours for messaging, to go out about the next thing. And if you serve a school whose families are not tuned into the board meeting and what the next decision is, then as the principal, in terms of trying to be a good communicator, the next morning, we're notifying families and trying to anticipate, what is coming next and getting information. And so in some instances, I think prior to this last time, you had some principals who were going and doing the next thing, who were trying to control what they could control, I think. And so, we're moving forward. And so then as a principal, it would become frustrating when 3 days later, we'd be given a template and some principals were like, I'm halfway through collecting surveys from my family. And so now you want me to send. And so I think that is where we got it right this time, is that principals had that information and were told, what the next thing was and had some guidance as to how to move forward.
Yeah. Okay. So Kate.
And can I just jump in? I think I was excited that we were ready, but it's a kind of like a gift and a curse. I've heard some people say, oh, the board already knew what they were going to vote because the message was ready and it went right out as soon as the vote went out.
and let me, just because you all are ambassadors for the district and for communications, I'll let you know that what we do in those instances, and I know this is not going to be something everyone understands, but we prepare for all scenarios. We don't just prepare for one. So we're ready with messaging on all fronts when we're getting it right.
I know that, but
I know.
I'm just telling you what the word on the street.
I know it. I know it.
I think it's important, that we share the message that a good communications department anticipates all outcomes, and you have to be ready for any awful thing that could happen, great thing that could happen. And so when there's a board agenda that's posted, 4 or 5 days in advance, if there's large ticket items that the district knows are going to bring about a lot of interest, communications is on it. And I am so grateful that we have become proactive, not reactive to the responses, because to Ms. Taylor's point, it mucked it up for our principals that were already moving on things when those votes would come through. So I appreciate everything that communications has done to get ahead of those votes and to be prepared for everything.
And that's exactly right. That is what we do. Anne has us to be extremely proactive. Like the week before a board meeting, we're meeting and she's telling us, oh, this is going to be a hot topic item, or this will be a hot topic item. And I'm sitting at board meetings and I am live tweeting as the board meeting is going. And in order to keep up with that, I have to go ahead and make templates for what is happening and be prepared so that I'm not missing anything, and so that the families who are following us know what's happening as it's happening. Because if I don't report it, or if Ann doesn't get that news release ready, then it's going to get reported already by the media. So that's just, like Ms. Adams says, part of communication, being prepared and staying ready and not being behind on the ball. And Bernice, if you could, as an ambassador, as someone who knows this, let families know, tell the parents, hey, no, they didn't plan it ahead of time. Their communication staff is doing what a communication staff does and is preparing for all instances. I don't know if anyone caught it, but there were several different instances that were being possibly that we had an idea that were being talked about at the board meeting. Was like, were kids possibly going back under Plan A March 1st, March 8th, or were they not going back at all? So I had a template for March 1st, I had a template for March 8th, and then I had a template for a real remain in Plan B. And because of that, there was a slip up where I posted on social media that they were going back on the March 1st template. Okay. And so we're always doing that. We're preparing for whether it's going to be March 1st, March 8th, or whether it's going to be a remain in Plan B. That's how that information is getting out there quickly. And anyone can let families know, no, they're not making these decisions ahead of time. They're preparing for all possible outcomes.
Right. And I did tell people that, and I did communicate that. And I don't want y'all to take it as I'm saying it's a bad thing, but I'm telling you what the word on the street is, and which I think you would want to hear. And I just think with any hot topic like this, you're going to always have those naysayers, but I'm just communicating the message.
That is true. That is true. I do think for the second bullet, I don't know if it solves it, but something where the school and the district are coordinating closely, to me, hits on it more than rigidly following.
Right. I was going to suggest something along those same lines too. And then perhaps our other bullet, the first bullet is, maybe that's really the first bullet, because if you look like established parent communications policies and processes, and maybe that, is where we collaborate. But what I'm hearing from this conversation is perhaps one of our goals is for accurate and timely communication, to ensure that is happening. And so that's more, to me, accountability measures. I mean, because our committee is not going to come down on, any school or anybody because they're not communicating according to what we think is appropriate, sort of deal. So I was thinking maybe, timely and accurate communication is one of our goals. And timely and accurate, and maybe even add the word in multiple formats, communication, because we're talking, emails, phones, text messaging, social media, so maybe it's time for us to sort of call that out, is that we are, we're actively looking at reaching families in the best way that we, in multiple ways. So what's anybody think about adding some words in about that? Don't be shy.
I think adding the words would be good to, make it a little bit more specific. But I also think that some of the goals of this committee are changing.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be identified. I think that I like what we did while we're still in the process of with the website. I feel like that was a great project that this group can be a part of and help to inform some thought around. And I think that it would be a good idea. This is just me. Are there other projects like the website that this group could be the beta test of things that are, the district is considering, or people to bounce things off of? That could be a role of this group to share their insights on this new product that technology is considering for putting messages out, or if we're rebranding, if we're looking at logos or things like that the Family Communications Committee, what is the most expressive New Hanover County schools that speaks to you, things like that. I feel like this group could serve in that capacity, because I do think that a lot of the communications processes are really improving. So when this group first started, a lot of the things were not in place that are in place now.
Right.
So I think trying to think about what would be the next kind of goal moving forward would be a good thing to look at.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get us to, is like, what are we, you guys have been at this for 1.5 years, so what have we accomplished that we need to either leave on, because it's an ongoing goal, or what are things that possibly are any of these things that we can take off or reword, and what are we still missing? One of the things that I was thinking about today, based on an email that I got from a parent, and then Mr. Anderson from our operations department, answered the question. And it was about ventilation in the schools, and he did, a bang up job. So I'm wondering if we can, if our group thinks it's important that we create some sort of frequently asked questions list that you can just click on, and things, and again, being proactive, like if everybody's kind of, right now, ventilation is a big issue with a lot of people. So why wouldn't we just post, an answer like, Mr. Anderson gave to a parent, or, question we had about, transportation, or the phone calling mechanism. How do I opt in? How do I opt out? If my bus stop situation changes, I mean, do you think that would be helpful? Than having, just a sort of like a quick summary, but people would still have to go to the places on the website, but sometimes we can't find places on the website. So what do you guys think about that?
You're suggesting we develop questions that we think parents need to know? Yes. Okay.
Yes, or that the school system gets, all the time, maybe senior staff, or at the director level, or principals, can say, here are the questions I get all the time. And certainly we as board members get those too. And maybe we as ambassadors, parents as ambassadors, what are the questions that your friends are asking you all the time, or that you guys chat about, at a PTA meeting?
Yeah, like, how do I register my kid for school? I mean, you'll have parents in the middle of the year who are like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and so maybe maybe that takes us back to our review of the website again. So some of these kind of things, maybe we just hold that thought. But I was just trying to figure out if that was would that be not a goal? That's more of an action plan, like a strategy to do. But and I guess we can hold that thought as we're going back through. But I'm just looking at maybe making sure that what we think we're working on or that we want to work on, that we capture, so that when we go out and recruit new people, we're asking them to be specific about. So maybe one of our goals that we talked about briefly last time was ensuring that our membership is representative of our community or of our parent and student body, because we had talked about perhaps making sure that our Latinx community was covered, that our males, male membership was covered, that our EC parents were covered. So is that goal worthy to anyone other than me?
I like that. I think that's a good idea.
Same, especially for like non-traditional households. You may not have families where there's just parents. It could be, a guardian. It could be a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a friend even. So to be more inclusive on the committee and to represent, all of our potential families, or at least attempt to represent all of our families, would be a great idea.
And I think Bernice had brought the grandparent thing up, the grandparent, membership person as an example last time as well. So would anybody, would everybody be okay if we made some words around that to ensure that our membership is representative of our school population?
Representative and inclusive.
Representative and inclusive, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So Ann, you're the writer. Make us a good goal, please. Okay. So so what were anybody's? So Ann, I see your head down, making lots of good notes. So what were some of the things when we were talking about the collaborating goal? Do you remember that when you said that the schools and the district collaborate more?
Yeah, that maybe for that second bullet, it's now changed into something that's more, right now we say create and implement accountability measures to assure policies and processes are followed. So maybe it's to advise and recommend, I don't know, we'll work on this. Advise and recommend policies and procedures that allow for greater maximum collaboration and coordination. I think coordination is maybe a better word, between district and school level communications. Something that needs work, but something.
Yeah. Okay. And then also, I really would like to see in there, and people chime in, just the fact. First of all, give us credit that we are doing timely. We're much better at doing timely and accurate information rather than waiting for a news story to react. So I would think that's something that our committee would want to, that parents want. They want timely and accurate information. Do you think you parents out there, what do you think about having any goals where you guys don't mention in your goals that you do have town halls? So do we want to be specific in our goals that we will host, community forums, to make sure, or to make sure that, parents get a chance to be heard, all parents? Do we want to call that out as something that we're going to do? Like that's our goal, that to hold regular, we don't have to say a set time, but regular meetings?
I think we talked about at the last meeting that responsibility seemed to be moving to communications. And so that's why I was saying some of these may need to change, because I think that communications is going to take that format and expand on it. And so that's why I was suggesting we've got to figure out what part we play now. Because we started those round discussions to collect data and to get feedback. And now that communications again is up and running, they're doing more of that. So I don't know if that's something separate that the committee wants to do, but I think there needs to be a separation between what's communications role, what's family communications committee role, if we do that.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I remember us talking about that, and I was going to mention that. But maybe the bullet can be worked with New Hanover County Communications to come up with relevant, or timely, or I can't word it right now, but roundtables that people want to hear about, people want to participate about.
Or we can commit to
collaborate with.
Yeah, we could also commit to support that if the district's doing those, that the Family Communications Committee will support and be there if we're available to be extra hands or something like that.
I think to connect with that, each department, I know the AIG department has the Gifted Advisory Council, and sometimes we'll have speakers at different events for the gifted community or people who are interested in the gifted community. And if all of that was meshed together to be, collaborative, jointly across the county, it wouldn't be like, it would just be more efficient, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And are you suggesting that perhaps, because I know this, I know exactly what you're saying, is some parents miss out on some things because if your kid's not in the AIG program, or you don't think it applies to you, kind of thing. But I know that the school system puts out regular, like little press releases, and the AIG is meeting tonight, or the Family Life group, has all the sex education, curriculum night, and the transition night for our EC students, is either just happened or is happening. So a way to get people to know more. But what I was getting with the town halls is that just because we say we're doing it doesn't mean we're doing it. And so I personally think that it is nice for us to check in with our families, from time to time, in a town hall forum. And I know one of the things that I've read so much is that so many people are expecting so much of our superintendent, so much of his time, to communicate directly with people. So is maybe one of our goals to, I don't want to say because we can't force, Dr. Faust to do anything, but maybe one of our goals is to say it somewhere that we just have a chance for an open dialogue, or, from occasionally, and we cover whatever we want to cover. It doesn't have to be that specific. It doesn't have to be the superintendent, but it could be. Doesn't have to be programs, but it could be, especially if we're changing, new things. And I'm thinking here, so is there anything more that you parents need, or that parents need when we're to move us successfully and fearlessly into our transition to Plan A for elementary schools? Because that I know is weighing on everybody's mind. So to me, that would be something that our communications committee might want to be thinking of, things that parents are going to ask, so that we can again be on top of it with, here's what I think they're going to ask, or just, I don't know, I'm rambling. Do any parents have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When COVID kind of first started and over the summer and everything was up in the air, they had a whole FAQ section on there, and I think that was really good. So that might be kind of a good template to follow. And I don't know if it would be the teachers or who the principals or who would kind of start creating a list of the most frequently asked questions, but I think that would be really helpful, because I'm sure, instead of getting 50 questions, the same question, you can just answer it once on the website, and that'd be helpful.
And we're still going to get those questions, even if we post the free, and we all know that. But at least we're attempting to put out information quickly. So I guess that's where I keep coming back to, are we getting, is our group, do we want to have timely information, proactive, timely information would be, to advise the communications department. I mean, they're doing it, they're doing great, but I would think our committee would be to make sure that communications is in touch with what parents need to know, or need feel like they need to know. Cynthia, I think we're trying to say something before I butted in.
Oh, you're fine. I was also echoing Sonia's sentiments with an FAQ section. That would be especially helpful, especially if there's, certain themes, like even an FAQ on COVID, because that's what we're dealing with right now, or an FAQ on Plan A. I'm sure, like as a parent, I'm struggling, like my girls are going to go back 5 days. Yes. But my son is still going to remain 4 days. And that puts me in a quandary. What do I do with my child on Wednesdays? He's too old to go to a daycare facility, little too immature to stay home. So, there's those things as being both a parent and a staff member haven't been addressed yet. And I know that it's not all of us that this applies to. It's a very small piece of us that it does apply to, but it's in instances like this where I feel like that small population has been forgotten. And I know how I feel about it, and I would hate for any other parent to feel that way. So by having all of the information literally out there and at your fingertips, for parents, trying to predict what they're going to say is of course impossible. However, taking what we have learned in the time that we've learned it and putting it out there for other people may solicit other questions and follow-ups, and then we can build on that and make it better.
And if you notice, Cress is putting up the frequently asked questions. So I guess I didn't look closely enough to that, as a parent, but so some of the things we're talking about are already there. We just have to make sure we know how to find them.
And then if you guys have any other questions, send them to myself, send them to Ann and Brandon or Dolores, and we will post those questions up here and get responses and add them to whichever category they need to be added to.
What I think that's what we have to work on is our collecting these questions, because we have a solid start, but we need a better mechanism. Maybe it's people can submit questions through the website to collect these, because we don't necessarily know what they are.
So the only thing that I would ask that I think we need to be careful about is that as we go into Plan A, the words change from requirements to recommendations, and schools have been given some decision-making autonomy in terms of how we're making that work. For example, how are schools serving their 100% remote learners, their virtual academy students? What has been sort of how an individual school has set up their classroom to try to maximize physical distancing, things like that. And as a principal, one thing that sometimes, not all the time, but that was frustrating about frequently asked questions or questions that were posed on social media is that answers would exist that wouldn't be true for all schools, or all of a sudden you would have principals texting each other going with the screenshot, have you seen this? Did you know we're doing that? So I think that's where it starts to get a little bit, making sure that it's fine. I mean, we'll do whatever it is we need to do, but that principals are aware before it's posted of what the expectation was, and that it's not an expectation that some schools were doing, but that weren't required of all schools because of staffing or space or circumstances. Because I think it's great to be able to provide that information for parents to immediately get. But then if it wasn't clearly communicated to principals and the parents read that, well, then you got a conflict on the other side. And does that make sense? I mean, I think just for that to be streamlined, that it includes things that were required to be standardized across schools, and that was communicated to principals.
That is a really good point. And I think as we move into Plan A, a lot of times, more often, definitely the answer is decisions regarding this is site-based, depending on the school your child goes to. I mean,
but as a parent, I think that's what parents get frustrated about. Why is it, why are some things different at one school than another? So is it some things? Go ahead.
Yeah, Bernice, it is. It's because, for example, with Kate's example with going to Plan A. So one thing would be like the space. That's one question came up. The classroom size at Forest Hills is completely different than the classroom size at Blair, which is a brand new school. So at Forest Hills, they might be able to do, you know, and it's their guesstimate, they might be able to do 2 feet 6 inches. Whereas at Blair, they might be able to do 3 foot 6 inches. So we can't say this is what it's going to be. They're going to do social distancing as much as possible, but we can't give. And some parents were wanting a specific measurement, but we can't give a specific measurement because even within a school, class to class, it could be different. So there's right. That kind of issue there. Then the other issue would be kind of like how they're implementing, depending on who's coming back for face-to-face. So like at Kate's school, she may only have 5 kids in her whole school that want to continue doing fully remote. Well, instead of her tying up one teacher for 5 kids, she then has the flexibility to combine her students with students at another school and then a teacher at another school. I mean, they're still Alderman students. They still belong to Alderman. That's where they go. But it might be a teacher at another school who's actually teaching them in the fully remote environment. But then at another school, they may have, 40 kids and they can tie up 2 teachers because it makes sense. They have enough kids there that then they have the kids being served by teachers at that school. That's where that flexibility that they've been able to afford in order to make things work for what's best for their students that are coming back to their school. Kate, did I say that right?
Right, and I understand that, but I think we do need to add a disclaimer then, varies from site to site. Please contact your principal for additional information.
Exactly. Bernice. Yeah, totally.
And not the school board, because the school board doesn't make any of the, I'm being facetious on that, you guys. But I think,
there's 46 different schools, and each one of those schools has at least 20 to 30 classrooms. And to know the specifics of each one, to put that on the board is really not fair. Like the principal is in charge of the school. They should know their individual classrooms. And if a parent has a question about, hey, my kid is in so-and-so's classroom, how many kids are expected to come back and what is your expected, I expect the principal to be able to give me a straight answer on that.
Yeah, and I guess where, just to kind of contain our conversation a little bit, I threw that example out, and that was probably not the best one, because I just feel like our brains are paralyzed with plan A or plan B, but I'm thinking of just in general, for lots of different things, on to me, one of the biggest times, no matter what situation our world is in, is back to school. Just what's going to happen, back to school 2021, 22, or some big program or some big change. Do you feel like it's kind of hard to know right now because we've been all so absorbed into pandemic mode, but on what kind of communication, and do we even need to talk about it right now, but the communication around broad changes in, let's say we're changing the curriculum, or let's say we're talking about summer school.
I got a good example. I got a specific example. I think that's going to do your point, Stephanie. So I think the idea is letting everybody know that this committee is out there as a resource. For example, we stopped using communication tools other than emails, to a student email from a staff email, like all the different Remind or WhatsApp or all the things that the schools were using when a teacher was communicating with a student. Dr. Faust put a halt to that because it wasn't controlled or whatever at the central office level as far as archiving and all that. And so I actually have a committee that I'm forming to come up with a district communication tool platform that we can use that would meet the needs of the schools. So, of course, I'm part of this committee. So my thought was already, besides running it by the other committee I have, when we kind of narrow things down, coming to this committee and saying, hey guys, we are looking at using this app as a communication tool. This is how it would function. Do you think this is going to meet the needs of our families in our district? Because this committee is supposed to be made up of a good representation of exactly beta tester, Stephanie.
Yeah.
But see, that would be a good thing there. I'll be honest, another thing, and it might be too late for this, but the whole Scribbles enrollment piece, because I know I'm getting emails, and Kate may be able to say more than I can. We're moving to this online enrollment piece, and people needing to have emails. And so that's something that probably needs to come through this committee to kind of talk about, because, there are people who don't have email accounts, and, if they need it, how are we going to get them created and what we're going to do? So, I think letting all the departments know that this would be a good committee to be a sounding board, to offer, input, to beta test if that's even possible. I think working it that way would be good too.
Yeah, and that's is exactly what I'm talking about. Is that I feel like this group could be practice people, the guinea pigs, the beta testers, on different kinds of information that we think parents would like to see, or that we can give input before it's already put out there, and then parents go, oh my God, what were we thinking, with that? So yeah. So maybe that one of our goals is to, if we're going to make it a verb, be a resource to other standing committees in New Hanover County Schools on the way information goes out. What, maybe not even what goes out, but what and how it goes out. Because that seems to be, to me, was some of the very basic things that parents just complain about is, we didn't know, we didn't know timely, we didn't know at all. Or I had to find out it from my friend down the street because I don't have email. So we kind of have to look at it from, and keep our ear on what the equity committee is doing also, to make sure that, communications is equitable, as far as, and inclusionary.
And Dawn made a very good point about the online enrollment, and we've just created the website for that. And I don't know, Chris, are you pulling it up?
Somebody is, because my screen's going crazy.
Yeah, and maybe we don't want to go that deep into
Yeah.
it, but maybe that is something that we can share. She's pulling it up, but we can share that with the committee after this. And it is a pretty quick, it's launching on the 1st, and I think it's live now, but we would love to get your feedback on that. I think that's a great idea.
Because at least we can take like a first crack,
Absolutely.
And so that would lead us into, our membership, making sure that we have the right membership. Because I know that I listened to, I think I told you this last time, I listened to the Latinx Alliance had a forum with Dr. Faust last month. And one of the members there, one of the people talking said that, that she felt that the Latinx community really used Facebook more than anything else. So we had to, we're going to have to figure out, are our Facebook Lives good? Are our Facebook messaging good? Kind of thing. So I guess the only way for us to really know is if we have people on our committee that can speak, to that.
Oh, I wanted to mention also, ask the question. I know this is aired live on Facebook, I believe, but is there an opportunity for people that are watching, or families and parents that are watching, to send in what they would like to see us do?
Not on this venue, Bernice. This is actually streaming live on YouTube, so it's not interactive, but Communications has been running a lot of Zoom live events, and when they do that, I believe that they can interact. Anne, is that correct?
Sorry. Yeah. We've done Facebook Lives, and that's a great method for interaction. Zoom is possible too, but I think Facebook Live is probably better. So it's something we could look at doing.
Go ahead.
We just don't generally do it for committee meetings, but we could look at doing that, or doing it in a separate time as well.
So maybe not do it for a committee meeting, but maybe do just like a 30-minute session that say, hey, we're going to give parents the opportunity. We've been brainstorming. What do y'all want to see us do? Or what communications are you looking for? And maybe that'll give us some better ideas.
And we did utilize that at the beginning of the school year. We had with the Latino Alliance, actually, each Thursday for the whole month of August, we had a department division come in and do a Q&A session with the Latino Alliance. 1 hour was in English, the second hour was in Spanish. We had Eddie, Julie, Dr. Smith come on, and they all answered questions. Dr. Faust has also done a Facebook Live for employees where he took questions on that as well. So we're always looking for opportunities to where we can explore and engage our audience on Facebook. It's just, as everyone knows, Facebook can at times has a mind of its own as far as the comments go and how quickly negative it can be. So we just kind of monitor which options we choose and what events we're doing that we take to that platform for that reason.
So that I think speaks back to the one goal I was trying to get the words around, is that we, communicate and we say collaboratively discuss and develop innovative ways to reach out. So I guess that does that, but maybe we should, I don't know, but maybe that says enough. But what I was thinking, just listening to you say that, Caress, what does anybody think about, maybe, I know you're doing a newsletter, which sounds awesome. Is there any way that maybe the communications committee can see a listing of your activity so that we can make sure that we as ambassadors tell people, hey, don't if you're interested, they're having this chat or they're having this chat. I mean, I don't know if that's like too much, but it's a way for us to, spread your word, and to see if people are even getting the message. Like we can listen and say, I talked to 4 different people and they didn't know anything about that, but they were so happy that I told them. I don't know. Is that being too much of an overlap or?
And I think we already do that to an extent. I don't know if Brandon is on, but every week we send out a media advisory list that's full of all the events that are happening both at the district level and at the school level. I know it goes out to media and it goes out to principals and senior staff. Ann or Brandon, if you're on, do you know?
We do, yes, that's correct. Yep, we send that media advisory out every week. There were some weeks during the pandemic where we didn't send it out, and that was because obviously, we were in, fully remote and there were no events or things, but we have ramped that back up, and that is going out every single week.
That we could include the committee members on that.
We will definitely do that.
Yeah,
sure.
we could, as technology, we could get a distribution list and just add that. That would be pretty simple.
And I'm thinking too that that would be helpful, not putting words in your mouth, Bernice, but that would be helpful for you from the council perspective, is that you can then forward those kind of information opportunities out to our PTA units, so that, and hoping that they would forward it out to their PTA units. So the more collaboration of that kind of stuff, then we might be able to get words out to people, in a lot of different ways than we really hadn't thought of before. What do you think about that, Bernice?
Yes, that sounds great. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Can I go back to something, just to ask a question about the tech piece that Dawn mentioned from the beta perspective? When we are launching new software or new communications options, do we get test accounts? That like a guest account that we could come in, it's like playing in the sandbox, the tech sandbox. Is that available? Because I just was curious.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's dependent on the vendor, whether they have that or not.
Okay. I mean, anytime there's a guest account, there's accessibility. I think this group would love to be a part of that. But if it's not a guest account, I get nervous about putting actual information into something that could screw things up. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me let me propose this, is that Ann and Stephanie and I can look at the words of the things that we have all talked about here tonight, and maybe put together 4 goals, to make sure either reword what we already have or add in some things that we thought we heard, and then just send that back out in an email, and you guys can make a comment on that, or so that we can be ready to, actually vote on those, at our next meeting. Does that sound like that might be doable? Or give me a thumbs up. We'll just look, or say no if you think that that's not good. Okay, so Anne and Caress and Brandon, now that I've now that I've volunteered us, is that something that we could work on? Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So so that would move us into the next thing on our list was the new member application. So has anybody ever actually looked at that application at all?
I have. And we had to complete an application to be on this committee.
On this, yeah.
And I thought, personally, I thought it was good. I like the two positives and the two improvements.
Okay.
My question would be that when I applied, we had to propose some I can't remember how it was worded. Stephanie, you might be able to help me on this.
I have it printed out so I can look and find it.
And it was the one where you proposed like ideas that you would bring to the committee.
Okay.
But I don't know that we ever shared those. Or
yes.
Chris, could you pull that up? Could you click through the apply in English?
Yes, and if you guys take a quick notice that Anne added in there, how to apply in Spanish. So we have a Spanish one, and then we have the link that's written in Spanish so that if you are trying to find it, it's in Spanish or English for them. But
not the feedback form, but the application.
The question that you're referring to, Allison, says, what experience or skills do you have that would benefit improving communication to families on behalf of the school district? Is that the one you're thinking of?
Well, that must have changed a little bit since I applied.
Okay.
This was a couple summers ago, and it was we had to suggest improvements or ideas that we had to improve communication with families.
It's further down in the application.
Yeah, it says, what 2 suggestions would you have to improve the district's communication with families?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know that we ever reviewed those, and so that may be data that's sitting there that we could pull from.
Okay, so who has those forms? Stephanie Adams, are you the one who has that access to those?
They should be in my Google Drive. I don't think I'm not a techie person, but I would assume that the applications that have come in are probably still in that same folder that they were in 2 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, we could definitely.
I don't remember anything on that application. I know you said you want to reach out to the Latinx community and EC parents. I don't know that any of that, or I don't even know if it can be on that, but how are we going to try to reach out and make sure we have kind of someone representing all different groups if it's not on the application?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't we say, and we can get, Anne and, our board attorney to look at it, but like when you fill out any kind of survey, it'll say, to help us be more inclusive, check this box if you want, and you can say prefer not to answer. But if we put like some verbiage in there that we're trying to be inclusive, then maybe we can add that. But I mean, to your point, how do you get to that? You can't just tell by names, and you can't tell by a name that I have an EC child, but maybe we capture that in another question somewhere. But
it is on there. It says the board strives to create racial equity on the committee. Please share your racial or ethnic background, but it's optional.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I see that. Yep.
And one thing that we can
but we don't really want racial equity. We want equity, right?
All groups represented. But
yeah.
One thing that we can do is we can more intentionally recruit through the EC programs, just across the district instead of just posting on the website. We can go to that division and they have them help us to identify potential candidates and publicize. We can just do more across the board with that, but especially in these more specific
areas.
Yeah, stakeholder groups.
Okay. So did anybody else have a chance to read through the questions? Were there any that struck you that like, or when you did it, were there any that struck you that, I mean, other than the one that Allison said, I think that's a good idea if we can figure that part out. And maybe Dawn can help us on this part. The Google Drive that Stephanie might have, is there a way to sort by things where we could just know what the answers were to all those things? There is? Okay. So Stephanie, can I give you homework, or can you pass it to me and I will, or share the document with me and I'll do it?
I'll add you as an editor collaborator. So
okay.
It, because it all funneled into an Excel file, and
okay.
So it's we can just pull that one column.
Okay. All right. Well, then, so I'll look at that, in conjunction with Stephanie too, just to see where we were and to see if we can find any trends that showed up in there. With that, so after we just sort of confirm that we want to keep this, the same, then would this be, how do you guys see yourself as reaching out to people, to try and find the groups that we're missing?
Well, I have a group for grandparents that I'm going to reach out to. It is an African American group, I believe, but it may be, it's through the YWCA, so it may be more than African Americans. And then I have some African American groups that I can reach out to, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
And I'll post it on the New Hanover County PTA page, and I'll send it out to all the PTAs as well.
Okay. That sounds good. So maybe our goal there would be to, ensure that we have membership. Well, we already said that part. Okay. All right. So if anybody, hasn't had a chance to look at the communications, at the actual membership drive, not membership drive, the membership application, please do that maybe this evening right after we get off, or in the morning, and then just send I think the best place to do, you can either send them to me or you can send them to Ann or Caress, your thoughts on that. Probably Caress is probably a better place to. Caress, is that good, or should they send them to me? I don't mind. I don't want to sign you up for work that is not up to me to sign.
They can send them to me and I'll put them in a nice spreadsheet and share with you.
That'd be awesome. So that way we can kind of see, and if you have any comments again, on the goals at the same time, send those to, like, if you have any news flashes, or brain flashes on good wording on that. And again, be thinking of things that that are coming up that we might have questions about, or that we're still struggling with making sure that we get information out the right way. Because you guys get a lot more than I get, as a board member. So, you have to tell us, if you're getting good intel or you're not. Does that make sense? Okay, so does anybody have any correspondence or anything that they have heard or that they would like to, add for the good of the cause? I would like to, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'd like to share my phone number with you guys. I have not given my phone number out to too many people, even though I think probably some of you already have it.
Ms. Crable?
Yes.
Crable, but this is being live streamed to the public.
Okay, then I won't do that. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. I will email all of you with my cell phone number.
Thank you.
And so that please feel free, to email me. To me, text messaging is so much easier. If you've got, please call me when you can, because our emails are just like the volume is still insane, and I may miss, as I'm going through, I may miss you and not get back to you in a timely manner. So I will email you all with that. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add?
Crazy question.
Sure. Nothing's crazy.
Sure. Well, we've been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes and I haven't been watching my phone like for news or whatever, but I have like 8 text messages from my friends asking, is New Hanover County Schools going to be closed or delayed tomorrow? Does anyone know why Brunswick County and Pender County are delayed tomorrow?
Because it's a predicted ice storm to come through. Yeah.
Oh,
it's
seriously?
a predicted ice storm. Yeah, I'm watching the news and I see several counties are closed, but I haven't heard anything from Hanover. But there is a predicted ice storm, and it's only supposed to be like 24, 29 degrees in the morning or something of that nature.
Oh, Bernice, thank God for you. You can multitask like nobody's business.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I've been seeing, that's what I just assumed it was weather. Yeah. So maybe communications department needs to check into that.
Yeah, there's no announcement at this point, but if there is, it'll go out in a Connect 5. It'll be posted on the website. It'll be announced at all the local news outlets too, but no, there's nothing right now.
It's
right. It looks like
County,
it's
probably
everybody but us. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to do with flooding. I used to work in Brunswick County. 17 was a mess when we got weather like this, so that's probably why.
Oh yeah, flash flooding. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was gonna end us. So, but have comments.
No, I'm good.
Well, I just we'll be done like 10 minutes early. You know, how often is that when Stephanie Crabill's involved in talking? So I just appreciate all of your feedback. It's all really good feedback, and I know that the communications department appreciates it, because any of the comments that we make, even in passing, you know, their brains are already working, you know, like Brandon saved me from myself. So just a few seconds ago. So that was, so I know they're thinking.
Stephanie,
And
one last question. When do we predict that application to be live for people to be able to apply?
it is live now.
Okay, so you want us to go ahead and start sharing now, or you want to wait?
It's live now, so you can share that. I didn't really hear anybody having any comments about changing our questions. The only comment I really heard was, let's just look and see what it says and use our data, you know, to help us out. But yeah, it's there. It's in English and in Spanish. So you know what? Maybe, yeah. I mean, why don't we wait until, let me just throw this out. Let us have a chance to update the goals to get them online before we do a mass sharing out of this thing, so that if they want to look, then we're already set. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course you can tell anybody, but if we get those goals, you know, cleared up, then we should be good to go. And you guys are welcome, you know, to share and talk as much as you want. So, all right. So I don't know if we move to adjourn or if I say that we just adjourn, but I think we're done, unless we have to have a vote. Okay.
Did we set the next meeting?
Oh,
we usually do.
We
that.
did not, but tell me when they normally are. Aren't they usually the same time?
We did, and you should all have calendar invites for it. I think all the meetings for the rest of the year have been set.
Okay.
Our next one is
I have March 18th.
March 18th at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Awesome.
Man, look at your calendar. Oh yeah, that would.
I'm not on that invite list. I don't have that invite, just FYI.
I will send it to you right now.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I will note that I looked in 2022.
Yeah, we'll just resend it to the whole committee.
Okay. So before we go ahead and adjourn, that since you showed that awesome calendar right there, the last goal that we had on there was, you know, create family communications calendar of events to generate interest and participation. Do we still have that as a goal, and we just have to work on what that actually looks like? Is that what I mean? I don't know what your thoughts were on that. There's so many calendars that people can access right now. So you know, you could be easily looking at the wrong calendar for your school.
That's kind of why I was thinking that if we merged with in collaboration with the Family Communications Committee or whatever, and a lot of these groups merged and everything went into one, it would be easier for people to find things.
But are you talking on district level, or because the some of the things would have to be, if we put everything on one calendar, you wouldn't even be able to read it.
Okay.
You'd get like one day on a square because there's so much going on at in the district and at each school. So that's what I was just kind of curious as to what that meant. Like,
well, I don't know the scope of everything, so I would have to.
But we can go back and look at that. We'll keep that on, and we'll just figure out what that looks like. Stephanie, I am loving your your Wizard of Oz, guy, the Wiz with his screen.
The dogs are hungry and they're not leaving me alone right now, and they're
in
my background.
Yeah. All righty. Well, you guys go have a great dinner. Stay warm, stay dry, and turn around, don't drown if you're in your flooding. So, bye. Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.